Test, test. The Latin verbal system works very differently from the English verb system. This video will show you a few ways how the verbal system in Latin works in contrast to that in English. Now, every verb, whether it's in English or Latin, is going to have person. So if we use the example verb of walk, we can say I walk, or we walk, the first person. First person is going to refer when you're talking to yourself. So that is the first person. Second person when you're talking about the person who you are addressing. So you walk. And the third person, he, she, or it walks. And so for English, the person is going to be determined largely by the pronoun we're going to use. I, you, he, we, you plural, or they. And for the third person, we use he, she, or it. So we refer to these persons as first person, second person, or third person. Verbs also have number, and that again refers to the actor, the subject. So we can have singular first, second, or third person. So singular first person is I, plural we. Right. So, and in the third person, the singular is he, she, or it, and the plural they. Verbs will also have tense. And the easiest, the most simple way of thinking about tense is that we're going to have a present tense, as the action is taking place right now. We're going to have a past tense, the action has already taken place, or future, the action is yet to happen. Latin, you'll find, has a bit more nuance to their tense system, but overall it's going to be present, past, or future. We'll talk about the tenses in a little bit. Voice. There are two voices in Latin. We can have the active voice, in which the subject does the action. So I can say, I hit the ball, where I am the subject, and I'm doing the action to something else. That's the active voice. The passive voice is where the subject is the recipient of the action. So the ball is hit by me, where the subject is being acted on. The action of the verb is happening to the subject. So the difference there is the active, the subject is doing the action, the passive, the subject is having the action done to it. And then Latin is going to have Latin verbs have what's called mood, and English has these too, and there are three main moods. There are three moods in Latin. There's the indicative mood. The indicative is used when you're telling stories, basically speaking about fact. There's the imperative mood, and these are used for commands. And then there's the subjunctive mood, which is used when you're talking about actions as thought of in the mind and not yet in taking place in real life. The indicative is actions in real life. The subjunctive is actions in the mind. You'll find that the subjunctive is not nearly as scary as you might think. It's used in very particular situations in Latin, which we'll cover in later lessons. So if we look at a Latin verb, or if we start with an English verb, that is I walk, or I was walking. In the past, I will walk. In the future, what we have is the verb and the pronoun, and then a tense marker. Latin, much in contrast, so to do a future tense in English, we have to use a pronoun, we have to use a tense marker, and we have to use the verb. Latin can determine all of these things within the single verb form. So we can have a stem, we can have an infix, which helps determine the tense, and we have an ending. Now the thing that you should take away from this is that the ending is going to determine person, number, and voice, for the most part, voice, but definitely person and number. So the ending is going to tell you who is doing the action, or who the action is being done to if it's a passive voice verb. So this I will have a different ending. So I walk will have a different ending from you walk. And you walk will have a different ending from he walks. We'll take a look at these endings in another lesson very soon. The tense and the mood are determined by the stem and a possible infix. So we may have a present stem with no infix plus an ending. That will tell us, oh, well, this is present tense, first person singular, or first person plural, depending on the ending. We may use a past tense, that is the perfect tense, plus an infix, which will give us, that combination will give us another type of tense. So the thing to take away here is that person, number, and voice is determined by the ending, and the tense and mood are determined by the stem and the infix. We don't need to use a pronoun and a tense marker and the verb. We just have one verb form.